let's hop right in. Let's hop right in. So,
Okay,
um,
let's do it.
this is our Speak with Estate Planner podcast YouTube channel, and this is where we interview everyone's favorite estate planning attorneys and professionals that work with estate planners. So today
Okay.
we're here with Susan Goodman, and she is
Goodkind.
a mental health Goodkind. Sorry, excuse me.
Goodkind, yeah.
She's
That's
a
okay.
mental health coach located in Michigan. Susan, thanks for being with
hmm
me this morning.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Yeah, this is great.
So let's transition
Yep.
forward. Um, so you were an estate planning attorney. You said, was it 23 years?
Yes, just about 23 years. Yes.
Perfect. And then you started moving into coaching. Talk to me about that transition
Yeah.
and how you got to where you're at
Well,
today.
let me tell you. Yeah. So I went in, first of all, I'm a late bloomer. I didn't start my law career until I went to law school at 33, graduated 36, and somewhere around 40 started my own law firm. Okay. So I'm kind of a late bloomer. I was so excited to be a lawyer. And like I said, I kind of brought a lot of creativity to it because actually my prior career, I was a designer. As you can see, I like color and all that kind of stuff. So I brought a lot of creativity to my practice and I was so excited about it and I loved it. And I had a lot of fun for the first 10 years. And then some things happened in my life. My husband died. I was in a bad accident. Just things kind of happened that I didn't know how to work through. So my approach was something happens that it's bad or hard, work harder. That was, so I went right back to work after my husband died. I went right back to work after I had my accident. And I worked really, really hard because that's a lawyer kind of a thing. We like to work hard. We like high achievement. But I wasn't doing anything to really replace the creativity because I was kind of letting that go. And some of the fun things, I was letting that go because I was working hard. And I took on some pretty difficult cases and I could feel myself changing. I was getting irritable and short and just not the same person and tired. And then towards the last few years, it just wasn't the same. I just didn't feel good. And then my son went off to college and I had even more time to work. So I did. I worked and it just started to take a toll on me. I could tell in the last year, I made some mistakes because my focus was off. I did make one mistake. I told you I got sued for malpractice because I made a mistake in a Medicaid application that caused somebody not to get their Medicaid and just little things. And then I started to go through staff because I was not treating my staff as well as I should have, and one staff member left. I think I told you this. I don't know if you want to hear the word here. Remember what I told you, what she said to me? Or not? Can I say swear words here?
Oh, you're fine. This is just our exclusive Facebook group, so you're good.
Okay. So I was going through a bunch of secretaries because I was not being very kind to them. I was not very patient with them. And my last secretary came in the day that she was going to leave, and she had a manifesto, and she started off by telling me, "You are a toxic fucking bitch." And I said, "You're done. I don't want to hear the rest of your manifesto. Leave." But I really didn't think that she was talking to me. I was thinking, no, you're the one that's bad. It's not me. But I came to realize later on. Anyway, I just ran out of steam. I really did. I couldn't function anymore. And I came into work and I couldn't do my job. And I decided to take some time off because I thought I just need some time off and some yoga or whatever, and I'll be okay. And it didn't help. I was so damaged mentally, physically, and everything. Drained. I really was. I had hit bottom that I ended up selling my law firm to my partner because I knew I couldn't do it anymore. And ethically, I was a little concerned too. I thought, I'm going to get myself in trouble here if I can't do this job. So I left and I took time. Well,
so why do you think that you were so drained? Why do you think you were so drained?
Because I worked relentlessly and I didn't replenish myself. Even though I went to the gym, everything I did was hard driving. Nothing was really for pleasure. I would go for a walk or a mountain bike ride almost every day. Did I smell the flowers? Did I look at the trees? Did I enjoy being outside? Or was it just another project? Got to do this. that was my approach to life. Everything was a project. There was nothing replenishing or refilling or restoring me. It was all
So
just
do you
work.
think that it's important for you in the profession that you were in to do things that replenish you and restore you, or is this like is it different for the profession you're in, or is it the same across any profession?
Well, I'll tell you as a lawyer, what I think was missing for me was I didn't know what was important to me. I was
Hmm.
doing lawyer. I was doing what lawyer, but I didn't know who I was being. When I started, I was caring and kind and creative. I was being Susan. And then I got to the point where all I was doing was doing Susan, doing the job. So I think it is very important for lawyers to know themselves, to have self-awareness, to have a starting point of what's important to me and how am I addressing that in my life.
Hmm.
If relationships are important, if success is important, if health is important, whatever it is, there's all kinds of things in our lives that are important. And to take a look, first of all, identify what's important, what's really important to me. Like there's no compromise. Okay, these things are foundational. And then in everything we do to say, am I addressing this? I was not addressing relationships. I was not addressing, you know, in health, but in a sort of a very superficial way. So I had to kind of come back to say, what's important to you, Susan? And if I had done that earlier on, I would have realized creativity is so important to me. And yet I had none. I had let it go. So I think the starting point, whether you're a lawyer or you're a coach or you're a snow shoveler, whatever your career is, to say what's important to me so that I can honor that and align with that in what I'm doing. You're not going to be happy in like everything all the time,
Hmm.
but if you're in a crummy job but it pays you really well, then find that part of, okay, it pays me well. That's important to me to have financial stability and value that, and then work on adjusting other things as necessary. But if you hate everything about what you're doing, you're going to go off the rails
Right.
because that's not, it doesn't work that way. I
Right.
hope that answered your question.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so as an estate planning attorney, maybe you could share with us, maybe a relationship with a past client where maybe you didn't handle it as well as you could, and that's what caused a feeling of just being drained. And obviously it projects onto the people that you work with, your employees. If you're
Yeah.
not taking care of yourself, if you're not upholding strong boundaries, because we're dealing with
Yeah.
living with death services. This is
Yeah.
heavy stuff. This is different
Yes.
from any other type of law. This is different from any other type of profession, and that's really what we want to talk about today. Is
Yeah. Yeah.
why are we helping estate planners? Why are we working with them? Because of the work they do, working with people in a living with death service.
Yeah. Such a great question and it covers a lot. When I first got into estate planning, when you're first young and you're in your estate planning, it's all about being proactive. It's so exciting to explain to people what it is that you are doing and how it helps them and how it helps their children and empowers them in a sense so that they feel like they have control over what's going to happen if something adverse comes up. Or a
Mhm.
lot of parents don't think about it. They go on a trip and they leave their kids behind. What do you need to get in place to make sure your kids will be okay? So to share all this with people and say, look, I can solve all these different issues for you. Or if you
Mhm.
go in the hospital, we've got that set up. And it's very empowering and it's very exciting, I think. As you get a little older, it's interesting what happened to me is you start to see your clients and yourself. They're aging. They are actually having these problems. They're having to use these legal documents.
Right.
And again, it's a nice place to be to know that you can help people. But then you get a lot of people who didn't come to you, and then you're starting to get into the litigation and the difficult parts of things. Okay, now it's the
Mhm.
execution part of what you've planned for. And you're finding out that you created a POA, a power of attorney, and another sibling has a power of attorney. Because they dragged mom to a different lawyer when she was incapacitated. So you're starting to get into some of the real world things. And that's hard. I feel I took a lot of it home with me to watch families fighting, to watch families disagreeing, to watch your clients get sick,
Right.
and to
Right.
all of that kind of stuff.
What kind of
And
toll
then
does
again,
it take on an estate planning attorney to see those sort of things?
I think it takes a toll, but and I think most estate planning attorneys are pretty compassionate people. That was
Mhm.
my general feeling. So it's like losing a family member. And every time it happens, it takes something from you. It's so sad. I loved my clients. I really did. I loved my clients. So I think there's that part of it. Um, and then as you get even a little bit older and your clients start to die, you
Mhm.
realize your own self that you could die.
Yeah.
Your clients are dying, you could die. Or some
It's
of
just
these awful things that are happening to your clients
right.
could happen to you. That
Right.
really was part of my downfall, quite honestly. When I started to feel not so good and stressed out, and then I would see people day after day who were struggling, suffering, dying.
Right.
It
You're already drained,
really
and now you're experiencing people that are also even more drained.
Yes,
How do you
on the
recover?
daily.
You start unleashing that on
Yeah,
your employees, your staff. You know,
you got it. You got it. And there I was with all of this taking stuff out of me. And that's what you go through as an estate planner. And then on top of it, litigation. Because once my clients died and people were starting to contest things and challenge things, we ended up in court. Or people who didn't have estate plans. So we had to probate their estates. And then we ended up in court. And it's just more beating up and pounding and aggression and oh my gosh, I'm just feeling it. My heart is racing as I'm talking about it. And my downfall was that I didn't reach out for help
hmm,
because I really didn't know where to reach out for help. I figured if I looked good on the outside, I'd be good on the inside. And I did. I dressed well, I
mhm,
worked out, I was showing up in public, being a superstar, but I wasn't doing anything for that part of me that was really challenged by all of this.
mhm.
These days, I think there's a lot more available, but I still think there's a big stigma about letting somebody help you in the legal profession, to tell somebody else. And I did tell some people, but I had this image of being such a strong, resilient person. Look, I survived my husband dying, that people would say, you'll get through it. You're okay. You'll be okay. You're strong. You're a strong woman. And that's not what I needed. I needed somebody to put
Right.
their arms around me and say, tell me about it. Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what's going on. Let's
Right.
talk about how horrible this was for your husband to die or for you to hear. And so that was my downfall. And that's
Mhm.
why I'm a coach. So when I got out of law and I still had, and I recovered from it because I learned I did a lot of research, a lot of work to figure out what was lacking in my self-care and how to get myself healthy again. And then I said, I got it. There's other people out there. There's hundreds and thousands of lawyers who are in the same position. Maybe they're not as far gone as I was, but they're starting to feel this and they're not doing anything to help themselves that really is changing the course of their where they're going, maybe towards burnout or whatever. So what
Right.
is it? I coach. That's what I do. I'm not a therapist, but a coach is like, how Glinda in The Wizard of Oz helped Dorothy find things that were already there in Dorothy?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you too young for The Wizard of Oz or not?
Oh no.
I'm like Glinda. I'm like Glinda, the good witch. I will be your partner. I will hear you. I will help you see things in another perspective. I will help you open back up your mind and think about how to get back in alignment with what's important to you. If I had had somebody doing that with me, I'd still have my law firm.
Mhm.
I wouldn't have burned out,
Yeah.
I'm sure of
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
it's not a and some people need a therapist. I needed a therapist too, because I was pretty far gone mentally of what I was thinking, and I was paranoid, I was anxious, I was depressed. But I also needed somebody to just say, here, let's get arm to arm, and I'll walk down this road with you, so that if you're feeling uneasy or unsure, I'm here for you. I'll
Right.
support you, I'll encourage you. I'm not going to solve your problems, but I'll show you that you still are able to solve these problems in a way that's much more helpful to you than
Yeah.
the way you were approaching. Yeah. Does
Right.
that make sense?
No, that
Yeah.
you answered that question perfectly. I mean, just your
Yeah.
story for how you got to where you are. You know, you experienced burnout. You know, you're dealing with
Yeah, I
people that
did.
are experiencing, death. You know, and a lot of times, when a new client comes to you, they'll even tell you, you know, I recently just lost, a husband, or an adult child, or somebody that was close to them, and they need to update their plan.
Right.
They had a plan, and
Right.
now somebody that was one of their contacts is no longer there, so they need to update it,
Right.
and they'll come to you, and
Right.
you need to be there. Like, they'll even tell you, like, I'm mourning right now, and it's like, how
Yes.
does that affect the estate planning attorney, and how can the estate planning attorney put up stronger boundaries so that they don't get burnt out, they don't end up projecting that on into their family life or their
Yeah.
employees, or end up having to close their practice early. How do they extend their practice 5-10 years, so
Yeah.
they can keep doing
Yeah.
this sort of work?
Yeah. You nailed it. You nailed it. And while I think that my experiences made me a better lawyer, going through cancer, 18 months my husband had cancer and then passed away. So I knew what it was like to have a spouse with cancer. I
Right.
knew what it was like to lose a spouse, to raise a child. Made me all much more empathetic. So I was always willing to listen. But I
Mhm.
think there were times I almost started to use my clients as my coaches. They
Mhm.
gave me a chance to verbalize things that I was feeling while they were verbal, and it wasn't good. I really needed somebody outside of
Right.
my professional world
Wow.
to be
That's
able
powerful.
to work with. Yeah, yeah,
Wow. Susan,
and
that is
yeah,
so great.
I did, yeah,
Yeah.
and I know that people think there's a stigma. Well, first of all, let me address that stigma,
Mhm.
okay? Because when this happened to me, I was so ashamed of myself that I had to leave my law practice.
Mhm.
I was social. I thought I was going to have to move out of my town and live somewhere else, that I'd
Mhm.
never be able to go out and show my face again. I was
Mhm.
so ashamed. And gradually, I started to share with a few people out of necessity, like, why wasn't I showing up? I was the president of my hospice foundation at the time, and yet I didn't want to go to the meetings. So I
Oh,
had to kind of sort of, and the more people I told, the more people who told me back, I know I'm on
oh,
antidepressants too, or I had anxiety too. There was never a single person that I told that dissed me, that said anything negative, that did anything negative. It was always with open arms that
mhm,
people welcomed me and said, "Thank you for sharing," and felt more like they could share. So now I'll tell
right,
anybody. I really will. I'm not ashamed of what happened to me.
mhm,
You know, it was a lesson, and now I've got an opportunity that came out of it. So when you think that people are going to all be judging you and pointing fingers at you, you'll be surprised. That's not really the reaction that you're gonna get.
mhm.
Now, there is that little thing about, well, if I'm having mental health problems, am I, ethically practicing? Am I practicing
Yeah,
ethically?
yeah, I'm sure
Well,
a lot of
you can
attorneys
have
have that
mental
question.
yeah. Well, you can have mental health issues and just manage them. So you
Mhm,
can have anxiety, you can have depression, but if you know how to manage your emotions, then you're fine. But if you're not doing anything about it and you're trying to hide it and avoid it,
right,
then you might be worried might need to worry about some ethical things.
yeah. Sometimes you need that walk and that vitamin D in the sun after a call.
Right,
We've all had those calls
right.
where it was just like, "Where am I? Am I still in my office?" And you just need to take, a walk, or take a cold shower. Sometimes you actually need to do that stuff just to help yourself
Yeah,
regenerate. I don't know if there's any people out here who practice yoga, but in the practice of yoga, at the end of every session, they have this thing called shavasana, and the
Yeah.
point of that is to reset your proprioception and allow yourself to recover, allow your body to meditate on the way that it's just moved, because it's created new
Yep. Yep.
boundaries that it needs to set into, it needs to understand fully. And that's why we take that rest at the end of a class of shavasana. We need to take
Yeah.
more of these rests, dealing with when we're dealing with a living with death service, after a phone call, after something that's heated. What would be some strategies to help people identify,
So,
when they might need to take a break?
yeah. So let me share a little bit of how my approach to how I do this, and this will play into your question.
Mhm.
I was, again, as a lawyer, a very analytical person, a very practical person. So yoga didn't work for me. Meditation didn't work for me.
I
I
was just
couldn't
thinking that's the
stop my
example. Yeah.
brain. Yeah. And so I know a lot of lawyers who will tell you the same thing. They're not, that's just too woo woo for them. Although there's a lot of lawyers that meditate. One of my best friends has been meditating for 30 years. He loves it. It brings a lot of good stuff to him. But I wasn't in that space. I was hard charging, go, go, go. So when I was looking for my solution, I wanted something very practical, very science based. And actually, yoga is very science based, and so is
Yeah.
meditation.
What I was
So,
referring to with taking the rest and the
yeah, it
proprioception,
is.
that is
It is.
very science based. Yeah.
Yeah, but people don't always recognize it. They just think I didn't realize it. I honestly did not recognize when I was going and meditating, I didn't understand what I was doing. I
Hmm.
just thought, well, stop thinking.
Hmm.
Stop thinking for 30 minutes. No, that's not
Or why
really
it's going to
what's
be
going on.
beneficial. Right.
Exactly, exactly. So very simplistically, it's about forming new neural pathways in your brain. Our brains have neurons that connect and send messages, and by default, we tend to drop into negative spaces. He's a jerk, you're a jerk, I'm a jerk, I can't do this, I'm bad. A whole bunch of negative things go on, and then we react. It's kind of this little automatic system that we've got going on. Somebody cuts me off and I stick my finger and I yell, you, instead of really thinking about it. Or my favorite story, I love Will Smith for this. Thank you, Will Smith. Somebody says a joke about my spouse, and I
Hmm.
stand up and I walk on stage and I punch somebody in the face.
Hmm.
That's automatic negative thinking, automatic negative reactions. And as lawyers,
Yeah.
I think we do a lot of that. Okay. We can rework those neural pathways towards a positive,
Mm.
connect up new pathways, get rid of the old ones, and start. Okay, this happens, then I start to think this way. Well, that person cut me off. I wonder what's going on for them. And I exaggerate to make my point. Maybe they're
Mm.
having a bad day. Maybe they have to go to the bathroom. Maybe they can't see well. Maybe they're whatever, to just sort of open up and say, maybe this is something that I should have a little empathy for, and let them go and let them go their way. So we can recondition our thinking so that we're not always, sometimes the automatic responses are necessary. My hand is on a hot stove. Ooh, do something. But I don't have to get crazy and react in the extreme for everything. So we start off with recognizing what's going on. Look what I just did. Look what I'm feeling. Like, as we're sitting here today, I need to do a lot of my mental health checks. I'm feeling very heavy in my chest talking about what happened and the
Mhm.
way I felt when
Right.
people would come to me with, and instead of having a spiral into negativity. So first we recognize these negative feelings that aren't helpful and make us feel stuck and overwhelmed. And then we learn to do like mini meditations or mini yogas or whatever. What we're doing is we're saying in our brain intentionally, stop.
Mhm.
Stop thinking that. Stop doing that. Stop for a minute and hone in on something very here and now. Maybe I'm just going to rub my hands together for 2 minutes and
Mhm.
feel my skin surface. Or maybe I'm just going to sit and listen to the noises outside. Just something that stops this and puts my
Right.
brain
So it doesn't
neutral.
continue to elevate over a course of the day and hours, and over the course of an attorney's career.
Yes.
Being able to
And you
just
can
stop.
do these. These are small little mental exercises to stop, go neutral, and then I teach my clients how to shift into that other part of their brains.
Right.
Again, I'm being very
Right.
generic, but where there's empathy, curiosity, innovation, creativity, focus. That's not happening over here when I'm sticking my finger out at somebody.
So
Whereas I could be thinking about, well, what's another way of solving this?
here's a question that I have.
So you can do this. Okay, go ahead.
So I hear a lot of speakers and mentors of mine. They really talk about just being able to separate, your work and your personal life. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're an estate planning attorney, man, that's tough to do. You are so close and
Yeah.
connected with these people. Like you
Yeah.
have to have empathy.
Yeah.
So when people work with you, do you help them implement strategies to help them, I guess, make that delineation where it's like they have empathy, but they also need to have empathy for themselves, so they're protecting
Yes.
themselves. So here's
Yes.
kind of a better way to respond to this instead of
Yes.
making yourself vulnerable.
That's a great question, because I'm going to call it an operating system. The way I'm helping people learn to manage emotions and feelings and all that, you can put it anywhere. You can put it in your personal life. You can put it in your professional life. You can put it in dealing with school teachers, wherever it is. It's that being aware of your feelings, reactions, physically, mentally, controlling them. I'm not going there. I'm not going to have that response. I'm not going to be judging that person. I'm not going to judge myself right now.
Mhm.
I'm going to use this skill. I'm going to look at it with empathy,
Right.
curiosity, the same ones I keep mentioning.
Right.
So I don't think it's separating life and work. I think it's managing it all in a way that it's comfortable, that you feel okay.
Right.
Being in those different places, no matter where you are, you have this operating system that you can rely on to navigate your day. Whether you're in the courtroom and all of a sudden you're getting anxious about your emotion that you have to put up there, in front of the judge, you can, with your eyes open, you can just hone in on anything. What is the texture of my skirt? And for just 2 minutes, just think of nothing but that. Or what does it smell in the air? Just something that takes me out of the worry, off the worry bus, neutral. And then I get to choose where those neurons, I'm going to go this way on that neural pathway. I'm not defaulting into the pathway that starts to say you're not good enough, your brief isn't good enough, you didn't do enough, you don't know enough, the other lawyer's smarter than you, whatever. Those things don't move you forward. They just don't.
Right.
Maybe with a little fear, but sustainably they're not moving you forward.
Right.
I'm excited about this, so I can't stop
Yeah,
talking about it. But it's
wonderful.
Yeah. It's made such an enormous difference in my life. Here I am in my 60s that I had to find this out, If I had known this in my 50s, 40s, 30s, like I said, I built a very successful law practice and I walked away from it because I didn't know how to do it.
And to your point, the best type of maintenance is preventative maintenance. You don't, I guess comparing this to a more technical aspect, you wouldn't reach out to somebody when your website goes down. You don't want to be reaching out to somebody when you have hit rock bottom. You want to be talking to somebody when you identify, okay, maybe I had a kind of an elevated argument with my spouse a week ago or 2 weeks ago, and I don't know why I did that. This is a great time to reach out for help and say, hey, this is what happened. Here's kind of what's going on with work right now. How can I, what are some strategies I can implement? Like that's the best time to reach out to somebody.
Yeah.
So
I love your analogy. Yeah. That's a good analogy. I have another one. Can I share another one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we go to the gym. You don't just go to the gym, ideally, the day before you have to lift something heavy or the day before you're going to be doing something. You start when you're and you build it up and you're consistent. If you really want the optimal fitness, right? So you go once a week or twice, whatever it is, because you're trying to build something up and build some. It's the same thing with this mental fitness work. You
Mhm.
start
Yeah,
somewhere before
you need
you
to be strong
have to
mentally,
lift the heavy task. Yeah, right,
right?
and you start to build up this mental skill, and you do
Right,
it consistently over time, these little exercises, so that when something bad happens, you're already strong. You're
right.
already yeah,
It's
for the
kind of like
estate plan.
uh so as
Yeah.
um, a sprinter in college in track,
Oh,
you know, we did
okay.
powerlifting, right? We were doing heavy squats, explosion type of exercises, and you know,
Yes.
right after I graduated college, I noticed, you know, I always had my running weight, you know, and we were really in shape. And I always had my running weight, but then after college, I continued with these explosive workouts, and I wasn't running anymore, so I ended up gaining a lot. Like I was huge, and
Uh-huh.
I just
Yeah.
remembered what my numbers in my squat were doing. Because back when I was in like my running form, you know, we would do, I mean, our max was, I mean, we'd have our maxes, but like a regular workout, you know, around 225, you know, 245 to 265, those were kind of like, you know, 3x6 or 6x6. And, you know, once I, you know, was really just focused on that and I wasn't running and my numbers are actually able to go up, I just remember going in and my warm up was 225, 3x12. And I didn't feel comfortable even starting my first set until I had done that. You know, so as an
Yeah.
estate planning attorney, where is your mental strength right now with where you are in your
Right.
career? You know, are
Yeah.
you warming up at 225, 3x12 before you feel ready to start your day and work with the first person who's already going through grief? So how do you
Yeah.
strengthen, you know, your mental resolve so that you can have a longer
Yes.
career and you feel like you have more energy at the end of the day? So I think these
Right.
are all just like great things that should
Awesome.
be discussed and aren't being discussed enough. So yeah, I just want to really thank you for like hopping on and just, you know, talking about this with us, because like I'm
Sure.
sure everybody else in the
Yeah.
group has really gotten a lot out of it and really appreciates it. Yeah,
I hope so. I hope so, because it's really it might be career making or breaking that you can
right.
get this mastered. Yeah.
Right. Right. So, Susan,
Yeah.
so if one of our attorneys wants to reach out to you, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. Okay. 2 ways. My, email is Susan at Goodkind, my middle name
Hmm.
there, of life. Over together, goodkindoflife.com.
Hmm.
And then my website is www.goodkindoflife.com.
Wonderful. Awesome. We'll also link all of
Yeah.
that up in the
Sure.
description of the video. Um, and that's all we have for today. Susan, thank you so much for being here.
Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to get the word out. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
So,
Thanks, Steve.
thanks,
Okay.
guys. Thanks, everybody in the group that signed in. And we will see you again soon.